Nanach, nachma, meuman, nanach, nachma, meuman. Sipurei masios. The 9th story in the middle of Chacham and Tam, when the Chacham received the letter, nanach, nachma, meuman. When the letter from the king arrived to the clever one, he told the clever person who brought it, "Wait, stay the night here, and we will discuss and make a decision." In the evening he prepared for him a great feast. While they were dining, the clever one analyzed with his cleverness and philosophy. He spoke and said, "What is this, that the king should send for me, for someone as lowly as I am? Who am I, that the king should send for me? The king has such authority and prestige, and I am so lowly and despised. In relation to such a great and awesome king, is it conceivable that the king would send for someone as lowly as I am? If you would suggest that it is because of my wisdom, what am I compared to the king? And doesn't the king have wise men? Also the king himself is certainly a great wise man. What is this about that the king is sending for me?" He was very, very astonished about this. The clever one, that is, the original clever one, the friend of the simple one. These were all the words of the original clever one, the friend of the simple one. After he had greatly astonished and perplexed himself, he spoke up and said these things to himself, said to the clever messenger, "You should know what I say. I think the matter is absolutely clear and understood. There is no king in the world at all. The whole world is mistaken in this foolishness, thinking that there is a king. See and understand how this could be, that everyone subordinates themselves, relying on one man, the king. Certainly there is no king in the world at all. But haven't I brought you a letter from the king?" The clever messenger replied, "Did you actually receive the letter from the hand of the king himself?" asked the original clever one. No, he replied, "Someone delivered the letter to me in the name of the king." He spoke up and said, "Now you see with your own eyes that my words are true. There is no king at all." Again he asked him, "Tell me, aren't you from the royal city? Weren't you raised there? Tell me, have you ever in your life seen the king?" "No," he replied, for this was true, that not everyone merited to see the king, because the king was not seen except at very infrequent occasions." Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. The original clever one spoke up, "Now you can really see that my words are very clear. There is no king at all, for even you have never seen the king. If so, ask the clever messenger who rules the country. This I can explain to you," replied the original clever one. "You should ask me about this, because I know a lot about this. When I was traveling abroad, I went to Italy. The custom there is that they have 70 senators, and they each leave the country for a certain period of time. In this way, everyone in the country takes turns at the leadership, one after the other." His words started to influence the clever messenger until he agreed and decided that there certainly was no king at all. The original clever one again spoke up and said, "Wait until morning. I will clarify for you." Again with proof after proof that there is no king in the world at all. The original clever one got up early in the morning. We refer to the clever one, who is the friend of the simple one, as the original clever one. And he woke up his friend, the clever messenger. "Come outside with me," he said, "and I will demonstrate for you clearly how the world is completely mistaken. Truly, there is no king at all. Everyone is greatly mistaken." Then he walked to the marketplace and saw a soldier there. They grabbed him and asked him, "Who do you serve?" The king, he replied, "Have you ever seen the king in your life?" They asked him, "No." Nanach, nachman, meuman. "Look, there is such foolishness," he remarked. Again they walked to a cabin of the army and entered into conversation with him until they asked him, "Who do you serve?" The king, "See with your own eyes that it is clear that everyone is mistaken. There is no king in the world at all." They agreed among themselves that there was no king at all. The clever one spoke up and said further, "Come, let's go and travel the world, and I will continue to show you that the whole world is greatly mistaken." They went traveling the world. Everywhere they went, they found the world to be in error. The king became an analogy for them. Wherever they would find the world to be in error, they would say that this error is true, just like the king is true. They continued traveling until they spent everything they had. They sold one horse, then the second one, until they had sold everything and they had to walk on foot. They would constantly investigate the world and found the whole world to be in error. They became poor pedestrians and lost their prestige. They were considered as nothing, and no one paid any attention to paupers like them. It so happened that they were walking around until they came to the city where the simple prime minister lived. In that city there was a true master of the name who was held in high esteem, Baal Shem Tov, because he was a miracle worker. Even among the royalty, he was esteemed and famous. These clever ones came to that city, walked about, and came to the house of the master of the name. They saw many wagons parked there, 40 or 50, with sick people. The clever one reasoned that a doctor lived there. He wanted to go into the house, since he too was a great doctor. He wanted to go inside to make his acquaintance. He asked, "Who lives here?" "I am a master of the name." "A master of the name," they replied. He laughed, saying to his friend, "This is a lie and an extraordinary mistake. This is a lie and an extraordinary mistake. This is even more ridiculous than the mistake about the king. My friend, let me tell you about this lie. Let me tell you about this lie, how very, very much the world is mistaken about this lie." Meanwhile, they became hungry and found that they still had 3 or 4 coins. They went to a soup kitchen. There they found food for as little as 3 or 4 coins. They ordered food for themselves, and they were served. While they were eating, they spoke and jested about the lie and error of the master of the name. The owner of the soup kitchen overheard their words and became very angry because the master of the name was highly esteemed there. He said to them, "Eat what you have in front of you and get out of here." Then the son of the master of the name arrived there, and they continued mocking the master of the name in front of his son. The owner of the soup kitchen scolded them for mocking the master of the name in front of his son, to the point that he beat and injured them and pushed them out of his place. They got very angry and wanted to seek justice for being hit. They decided to go to the owner of the place where they had put their belongings to solicit his advice as to how to get justice for this. Then they came and told him that the owner of the soup kitchen had beat them. Why, he asked them. They told him that they had spoken against the master of the name. "Certainly it is not right to hit people," he replied, "but you did not act properly at all by speaking against the master of the name, because the master of the name is highly respected here." They saw they were not getting anywhere, that he too was in error. They left him and went to the town official, who was a Gentile. They told him the story about how they had been hit. He asked them why. They told him that they had spoken against the master of the name. The official beat and injured them and pushed them out of his place. They went around from one higher ranking official to the next until they came before the prime minister. There were sentries positioned in front of the prime minister's residence. They informed the prime minister that a certain man needed him. He was instructed to enter. The clever one came before the prime minister. The prime minister immediately realized upon his entrance that this was his friend, the clever one. But the clever one did not recognize him, since he had achieved such grandeur. Immediately the prime minister started to say to him, "See my simplicity and how much greatness it has brought me, and what your cleverness has brought you." The clever one spoke up and said, Since you are my friend, the simple one, about that we can speak about this later. And now you should grant me justice for them having hit me." "For what?" he asked him. "Because I spoke against the master of the name." He replied, "He is a fraud and a big phony." The simple prime minister spoke up and said, "You are still trapped in your cleverness. Look, you said you could easily achieve my level, but that I could not come to yours. See that I have already come to yours, but you have still not come to mine, and I see that it is more difficult for you to come to my simplicity." Still, since he was previously familiar with him in his time of greatness, he ordered that he be given garments to wear, and he requested that he eat with him. While they were eating, they began to speak together, and the clever one tried to prove his theory that the king does not exist. The simple prime minister scolded him, "But I myself have seen the king." "Are you really sure that it was the king?" asked the clever one scornfully. "Can you confirm that his father and grandfather were kings? From where do you know that he is the king. People told you that this was the king, and they deceived you with lies. The simple one, became very, very angry over this matter of the denial of the king. Meanwhile, someone came and said, Azazel, the devil, has sent for you. The simple one trembled very, very much. He ran and told his wife with great fear about whom had sent for him. His wife advised him to send for the master of the name. He sent for him. The master of the name came and gave him only protective amulets, saying that he should not be afraid at all now. He should not be afraid at all now. He had great faith in this. The clever one and the simple one sat together again. The clever one asked him, Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? Because of who sent for us, he said. He laughed at him. Do you believe that there is a devil? Okay. He replied, Then who sent for us? The clever one spoke up and said, Surely it was my brother who wanted to frighten me and sent me this hoax. If so, how did he get past all the guards? The simple one asked him. He surely bribed them, he replied, and they lied and deceived. He's saying that they did not see him. Meanwhile, someone again came and said as before that the devil had sent for them. This time the simple one did not tremble, nor did he have any fear at all. Owing to the protection of the master of the name, he spoke up and said to the clever one, Now what do you say? I will let you know, he said, that I have a brother who is angry with me, and he created this hoax in order to frighten me. He got up and asked the one who had come for them, What did the one who sent for us look like? What did his face and hair look like, etc.? He told him that he looked a certain way. The clever one spoke up and said, See, that is the way my brother looks. The simple one said to him, Would you go with him? Yes, he replied, Just give me some soldiers to be my bodyguards so that he doesn't bother me. He gave him bodyguards, and the two clever ones went with the man who had come for them. The soldiers returned. The simple prime minister asked them, Where are the clever ones? They replied that they didn't know at all where they had disappeared to. The devil had seized these clever ones and brought them into mud and clay. There the devil sat on his throne amidst the mud. The mud was thick and sticky like glue, and they could not move themselves at all from the mud. The clever ones cried out to the ones who were afflicting them, that is the devil and his men, Wicked ones, why are you torturing us? Is there such a thing in the world as the devil? You wicked ones are torturing us for no reason. For these clever ones still did not believe in the devil. They merely said that wicked people were torturing them for no reason. The clever ones were stuck in mud and clay. They would speculate, What is this? These are just reckless men whom we had quarreled with once, and now they are really torturing us. They were tormented there with tremendous afflictions for many years. One time the simple prime minister passed by the house of the master of the name and remembered his friend, the clever one. He entered to see the master of the name and bowed to him in the way of nobility. He asked him if he could show him the clever one, and if it was possible to save him. He said to the master of the name, Do you remember the clever one? The devil sent for and carried away, and since that day has not been seen. Yes, he replied. He asked him to show him where he was, and to free him from there. The master of the name said to him, Sure, I can show you his place and get him out of there, but only you and I will go. They went together. The master of the name did what he knew how to do, and they arrived there. They saw that they were stuck in thick mud and clay. When the clever one saw the prime minister, he cried out to him, My brother, see that these wicked ones are beating and torturing me so much for no reason. The prime minister scolded him, You are still clinging to your cleverness. You don't believe in anything. According to you, these are men. Now see here, this is the master of the name, whom you had denied. He specifically is capable of extracting you, and he will show you the truth. The simple prime minister asked the master of the name to extract them and to show them that this is the devil and that these are not men. The master of the name did his thing, and they were left standing on dry land. There was no mud there at all. The demons turned into regular dust. Then the clever one saw and was forced to admit against his will that above all there is a king, and was forced to admit against his will that above all there is a king. Likutei Moharan, number 2, lesson 19, which speaks of cleverness and simplicity, refers to this story. The essence of perfection is only simplicity and straightforwardness. Amalek was clever and denied the main element of faith. See there on the verse, a tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up. The last letters of the verse spell out Amalek. Essentially, all downfalls come through cleverness. Agag. Essentially, all downfalls come through cleverness. Agag, who was also from the seed of Amalek, despite foreseeing his downfall at the time that Shmuel came to King Shaul to kill him, still did not believe at it, as it is written, and Agag came to him Madonois, and Targum Yonason translates Madonois as comfortably pleasuring himself with Madonois. Because he still did not believe in his downfall until he ultimately saw his downfall with his own eyes. Then he said, surely the bitterness of death approaches, for until that moment he did not believe. Look into the story and understand wonders of wonders. If prayer is not as it should be, it is a 3-cornered shoe. Understand this tale. Talmud number 10, the burger and the pauper. Once there was a great burger, a member of the prosperous merchant class in medieval Europe, who was extremely wealthy. He had quite a large amount of merchandise, and his notes and letters went out all over the world. He had the best of everything. Below him, the pauper, he was extremely poor, and the complete opposite of the wealthy burgher in every respect. That is, their positions were reversed. Just as the burgher had great wealth, so the pauper, in parallel, had great poverty. Both of them were childless. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman.